Hello everyone, it's JammaJohn, and today I am going to be doing a video about daily fantasy sports and about sports betting. I do like this NBA slate, so I'm going to be talking to you guys about it today. It's a very good slate that I highly recommend if you haven't joined yet. It's not too late. The app that I use and the other site that I use. So before getting into my advice and everything, the first one that I use is called Draft, and I will have a picture of it displayed on basically the icon displayed on here as well. Draft, it's a fun, awesome app that you can use to either, play competitions and win yourself some money, or you can even, challenge your buddies and everything. You like sports, you like bragging and everything to them. Start off on Draft. It's a very awesome site and app. What it does is it basically puts you into a snake draft. So it randomly selects who gets to go first and who gets to go last and everything. And if you haven't heard of a snake draft before, basically the first person would get the number one overall pick, and then the second person, say you're doing a head to head, would get two and three, and then the first person would get four. So it's like a snake where it's like, but the cool thing about this site as well is that you can do 3-man entries, so you can be facing two other people. They do 5-man competitions, 10-man, and even tournaments too. So great app. I highly recommend it. Even if you're not, betting any type of money or anything, playing with friends. And my first bit of advice would be to actually do that. Get into free competitions. So with me, whenever I get my daily fantasy day started, I like to do a couple of basically like free entries. That way, I know, okay, if I have the first pick, I'm going to go with this guy. If I have the second pick, I'm going to go with these guys. And it's going to be basically building up my core depending on who I get drafted that day. So that's what I recommend to you guys on draft. So now we're going to be starting to kind of talk about the slate here. And I'm just going to get right into it, okay? So, and I have it pulled up on my phone here, so if I'm looking down a lot, that's why. So we have the Orlando Magic going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is a 228 total projected. And right off the top of my head, I think that it's going to be a interesting matchup for LeBron James. He's been on a little bit of a losing streak, and it hasn't looked pretty over in Cleveland, but I think they bounce back with this one. I think Orlando Magic has an okay defense, but I don't see them really being able to hold up against LeBron. Isaiah Thomas is starting to get healed up again as well, so that's another thing that's going on. But honestly, as far as we're talking about draft, basically I'm going game by game, and I'm going to be talking about who to draft in these in kind of which round. So obviously, the top number one projected guy, the guy that you're going to want to be going after today, is LeBron James. If you have the number one pick, don't try to get cute or anything. Pick LeBron, because forwards in this matchup in this day are very, very slim, so you have to be very careful. There are a lot of point guards on this slate, and there are two top centers in this slate, which we'll get to. Don't try to get cute or anything if you have the number one pick, LeBron James. But if you don't have the number one pick, that's okay, because there's other people that we can go over with and we can talk about. So when I was getting picked first for LeBron, the other person would end up picking. They sometimes just pick some strange people. My second bit of advice, I always, unless there are very few elite centers in that competition, I always stay away from picking a center at number one, number two, or even number three. Usually, my fourth or fifth guy is a center, because in draft you can do two guards, which is either point guard or shooting guard. 2 forwards, which is small forward or power forward, and 1 center. So, like I said, unless there is not any type of elite centers inside of that draft, don't take a center number 1 or even 2 or 3. I'm picking my centers at about 4 or 5, and I'm still on a streak. I'm still winning games. I don't win every single game, but it's not usually because of the center, let me tell you. So, like I said, we'll get to that in a minute. But basically, so I'm still talking about Cleveland here. Obviously, LeBron James number 1, but that's okay if you don't get LeBron, because Kevin Love and Aaron Gordon are also going to be 2 very good forwards that are going to be on this slate. I don't recommend picking both of them if you are the 2 and 3. I would pick, honestly, Gordon, and then I would pick a point guard. So there's a lot more point guards on this slate that we can talk to. And at the end of this, I'm even going to basically give you, not my exact lineup, but my top plays for this slate, pretty much. So, and honestly, for the Cleveland side, it's really going to be LeBron James and then Kevin Love. And then on the Magic side, it's going to be Aaron Gordon and Evan Fournier. Um, he's small forward eligible. He's been playing small forward lately. I know he usually plays small forward, and he was 2 guard for a while, but he got switched back to small forward. So either way, this is going to be a high scoring game. I don't know if, honestly, Cleveland might blow out the Magic, but even if so, it's going to be because of LeBron and Kevin Love. So definitely look out for those 2. And then Aaron Gordon and Fournier on the other side. That's really it for this game. So I'm going to be moving on. Oh, yeah, and if I didn't say it already 100 times, Cavs are going to win. Like, it's going to happen. But moving on, we got our Boston Celtics versus the Philadelphia 76ers game. This is going to be a very good game where you can actually get a couple people from, not a whole lot, but still you want to get a little bit of exposure to this game, because even though right now the total is at 208, I think it could even go a little bit higher than that. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and I've seen a little bit of Sarge being picked just because, like I said, forward is kind of small. But that's for the 76ers side. Like I said, though, Embiid, even though, and I cannot stress this enough, even though he is like the second or third highest projected player, do not pick him with your second or third pick. If you have the option, get your guards and your forwards in, especially because this is what happens to me. This happens to me every single time, and I just love it every single time, especially when the Pelicans are playing. People see DeMarcus Cousins, and they pick him right away. And then I am sitting there with gold at Karl Anthony Towns, which I just use for my very last pick. I fill up all the other positions, and I get all my team all in every other position filled because he's already got his center. So why would I pick my center when he already has his taken out? I'm taking my center last at that point, and I can still get elite point guards, elite forwards. But this is the same scenario with today's slate. Let them pick Joel Embiid. Pick Karl Anthony Towns. But again, I'm getting a little too far forward. But going in this Philadelphia 76ers game and Boston Celtics, you could do Ben Simmons. He is getting a little cold as of late. I know he got ejected in the last game, but there's other options that I'm going to definitely be talking about in this slate. But if you want to go Ben Simmons, if you think he's going to be doing it, go right ahead. I know in the early beginning of the year he was at power forward, and that was just so great because that was just cash right there. You had someone that was at the forward spot that's essentially a point guard. But if the other person picks Towns right away, then Embiid obviously is the great choice. Don't get me wrong, but Karl Anthony Towns is still an elite point guard, or I'm sorry, center as well. So don't sit here and try to think that going one way with center right away is the best choice, because it's not. I never ever 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 pick a center before 3, and that's really all there is to it. But on the Boston Celtics side, Kyrie, obviously, you can make a case with Al Horford. It's going to be tough, though. I think that Horford could do it, but I'm not really too fond of that choice, especially when I've already been talking about the 1 and 2. So we're going to be moving on from that game. I think the Celtics are going to win, but it's going to be a close one for sure. So we're moving on to the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Houston Rockets. Now, this is another thing that I noticed today. Yes, James Harden is active and supposed to be apparently playing, but he's only getting 25 minutes. 25 minutes is not as good that you want for a guard, especially at James Harden. There's other options today. Don't try to pick James Harden. There's Chris Paul. Take Chris Paul. Because if if Harden does end up going off, it's going to be because Chris Paul is dishing that ball out to him, and dishing that ball out to Clint Capella, and dishing that ball out to everyone else. They are going to be in a little bit of trouble because Trevor Ariza is suspended for 2 games, and Gerald Green is suspended for 2 games. That gives more minutes to Chris Paul because Harden is only on a 25-minute limit for today, and they're facing the Timberwolves. They're going to be having Jimmy Butler defense. Jimmy Butler is going to be defending James Harden. Don't pick Harden. He's lower on the list for a reason. Even though 38 is an okay number, it's not a good number for Harden. Pick Chris Paul. Pick Jimmy Butler. Pick Karl Anthony Towns. Again, wait on that pick, but pick Karl Anthony Towns. Pick... Who else could I even think of? I'm not comfortable with really anyone else other than those 3. The thing about draft is that you really don't have as much players that you want to pick from, because you want to get it's not a salary or anything. You just draft these players. So don't pick Harden. Pick Chris Paul. Pick Jimmy Butler. Pick Karl Anthony Towns. All there is to it. This could be a very highly projected game, and it could get really good and really interesting. I don't know. The Timberwolves have been going crazy as of late, but ever since Jimmy Butler started really putting the team on, which is good, which is awesome, because more power to him. I miss him being on the Bulls. But I think that if you could get like a Chris Paul and a Jimmy Butler on your lineup, you'd be solid for guards. But like I said, you got to be careful with the forward position, because if they get LeBron and Aaron Gordon, which like I did, it's going to be a lot of trouble, because you got to rely on Kevin Love, which has been a little bit shaky, and then you would also have to rely on either Evan Fournier or one of the other forwards like Sargic or something like that. But I think that the Timberwolves are going to win this game, but I think Chris Paul is still going to be an elite choice. I would definitely go off of him. And so we'll be moving on to the last game on the slate, the Indiana Pacers versus the Portland Trailblazers, with a 213 total. This one is the one that I've been targeting point guard with. Or not just point guard, but the guard spot I've been targeting today. So I've been Oladipo, because this is Oladipo's team at this point. So picking Oladipo with the Pacers is definitely a good choice. And then also Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard. at the other guard spot. They are both going to be, you know, they're going to be dominating. This is going to be a pretty good game. And Oladipo has been a machine lately. He's been just going crazy with this team. So I would definitely recommend those two at guard. And then you can try CJ McCollum if you want, but I personally wouldn't. But there's not really much on that game either. So basically, I'm going to be going over basically my top fives for each position besides center. I'm really just going to do top three for center because there's really not a whole lot in this slate. So point guards that are my favorite that are the I 1 through 5: Chris Paul, Victor Oladipo, Jimmy Butler, uh, Damian Lillard, and then Kyrie. I'll take Kyrie over Ben Simmons. At forward spot, LeBron James, obviously. Aaron Gordon, Evan Fournier. I'm sorry, Kevin Love, Evan Fournier, and then Dario Saric. And then centers, honestly, I'm taking Cat because Cat's not going to be able to be taken down by Clint Capella defense. So Cat, Embiid, and then I'll take Nurkic over anyone else at that point. So I hope you guys tuned into this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you do end up winning and everything, let me know. I'd be more than happy to see, someone sitting here listening to my advice, taking it down, using it in their draft and winning some money, or even just bragging to their friends and being like, "Hey, thanks for the advice. I just whooped my friend by like 40 points," because it's such a great feeling. And don't forget to stay tuned. I'm out.